I want you to hit me as hard as you can.
Are you telling me that 200 men against your boy is a no-win situation for us?
You send that many, don't forget one thing.
What?
A good supply of body bags.
When you manage to strike it big as a movie star, you're exceedingly lucky if you can get that one iconic role that everyone will remember you for. But to many, it's both a blessing and a curse. Some actors have bristled at typecasting, and many struggle to follow up such a role. Such a thing happened to Sylvester Stallone in the wake of Rocky, but for the superstar, something really rare would happen. Lightning would strike twice, as in 1982, his movie First Blood would introduce the world to his second signature character, John Rambo, and just like Rocky, it would be a role he continues playing to this day. But first, let's take a step back. First Blood is based on a novel by David Morrell. An English professor, his book was inspired by the tales many of his Vietnam vet students told him upon their return from the war. Published in 1972, the book tells the story of a shell-shocked veteran gone berserk in a small Kentucky town after a run-in with a local sheriff named Teasel.
I've been telling you the law. Out here it's me. Don't push it. Don't push it, I'll give you a war you won't believe.
Eventually, his mentor, Colonel Trotman, arrives in the small town and bears witness to Rambo and Teasel mortally wounding each other, with Trotman finally finishing off his former protege. The book's anti-hero Rambo had some similarities to the most decorated war hero of the Second World War, Audie Murphy, a Kentucky boy who became a household name and eventually a bona fide Hollywood star in westerns. Yet, he also had undiagnosed PTSD and couldn't sleep without a gun under his pillow. First Blood was quickly optioned for the movies and went through many iterations. Everyone from Steve McQueen to James Caan to Paul Newman were considered for the role of Rambo, while Teasel was earmarked for an actor like Gene Hackman or Charles Durning. Everyone wanted George C. Scott, coming off of Patton, to play Trotman. The film languished in development hell, but it came close to being made by John Frankenheimer, with Midnight Express star Brad Davis in the lead. Eventually, it fell into the hands of fledgling producers Andrew Vajna and Mario Kassar and their company Carolco. It was to be independently financed, and director Ted Kotcheff was hired. Kotcheff was an interesting choice, as he was best known for the Canadian classic The Apprenticeship of Duddy Kravitz and the Jane Fonda comedy Fun with Dick and Jane. Yet, he had branched out with the football satire North Dallas 40, as well as the intense cult deprogramming film Split Image, which would actually hit theaters the same month as First Blood. Eventually, Sylvester Stallone secured the lead role, with him also co-writing the finished screenplay. Together with writers Michael Cazal and William Sackheim, he would flesh out the character, giving him the first name John.
State Police calling John Rambo. Acknowledge.
In the original novel, Rambo kills many of his pursuers. In the film, Rambo would be much more sympathetic, being a tragic victim of circumstance and bigotry.
I'm warning you, boy, don't make a move, I'll blow your head off!
I didn't do anything!
Who avoids killing, only indirectly causing the death of one cop who, in a crazed moment, tries to murder Rambo from a helicopter and falls to his death. Notably, the screenplay also called for Rambo to live, although both versions of the ending were in fact shot, one in which he lives, one in which he dies. The choice to make Rambo live changed up the cast, with Kirk Douglas having initially been signed on to play Trotman. A mock-up poster was made emphasizing his role, but he quit because he wanted the film to end with Trotman killing Rambo. A certain degree of competitiveness from the former He-Man action star may have played a role too, with Stallone himself telling an illuminating anecdote years later, saying that the plan to include Kirk Douglas snowballed into something he never expected. He said to Sly, "Here's what I want. At the very end of the movie, I should kill you. The audience sees a cop car driving away, and as it disappears into the fog, a hand reaches up to the rearview mirror, the camera turns up and we see me, and it turns a bit higher, and I'm wearing your headband." I don't think it would have worked. Rock Hudson would have likely taken over the role of Trotman, but suffered a heart attack before shooting. Hence, the part went to Richard Crenna, who'd had a long career as a character actor, but for whom Colonel Trotman would turn into a signature role. Crenna's casting was so last minute he basically had to learn his entire role on the plane to the set, which was in Hope, British Columbia, doubling for the fictional Hope, Washington. The choice of Brian Dennehy to play Teasel was another strong creative choice, as the late character actor plays Teasel as far more intolerant and cruel than perhaps someone like Gene Hackman would have, even if he's actually far from a stock villain. Once his deputies start getting killed or wounded, he realizes in how over his head he is, but his ego won't allow him to pull out, even when essentially given an out by Trotman.
I do my own work. I don't figure the best way to do that is to close my eyes and then hope he gets picked up in Seattle.
In a strange side note, Dennehy eventually got into hot water with Vietnam vets for passing himself off as one. He was indeed a Marine, but was out of the service by 1963, and he apologized years later. The shoot, by all accounts, was physically grueling, with Stallone doing about 75% of his own stunts. The film was plagued with injuries, with Stallone and Brian Dennehy both breaking their ribs during the shoot. Stallone broke a rib and bruised his spleen on the fourth take of the famous cliff jump scene. He did the second half of the stunt. Stuntman Benny E. Dobbins also suffered major back damage, a compression lumbar fracture. In other words, he broke his back and shortened his spine. This happened during the scene where the cop car slides down, which was an accident, but they of course kept it in the film as it looks so damn cool. And finally, Stallone broke the nose of Alf Humphreys, who plays Lester the cop, during the jail escape scene by elbowing him in the face. He wears a band-aid the rest of the movie. Coincidentally, this is actually what Rambo does to the policeman in the novel during the exact same scene. So, I suppose it was meant to be. Stallone and Kotcheff also had some battles during production, with Stallone apparently forced to do the scene where he's whipped with a rubber hose over and over, because he wasn't happy with the way David Caruso delivered the line.
Can't you see this guy's crazy?
Can't you see I don't give a shit?
The thing is, Caruso nailed the line in every take, and eventually Stallone almost came to blows with the director after being told to shut up after complaining. He was tackled by security guards before he could sort the director out, resulting in yet another cracked rib. That said, Stallone holds no ill will against the director and said they eventually both apologized and moved on.
Let it go.
First Blood would eventually emerge as one of Stallone's most important vehicles, as it was the first time he'd been able to escape the typecasting of Rocky. He made a lot of movies that cast him in a variety of roles, but none of them had been successful. Nevertheless, First Blood would be a hit, although the shoot was a fraught experience, and no one, Stallone included, thought this violent thriller would launch a billion-dollar franchise. The first cut was over 3 hours long, and Stallone famously wanted to buy the film and burn it. Yet in the end, Kotcheff whittled it down to just over 90 minutes, and the end result, as Stallone himself would say years later, was perfect, noting that he wouldn't change a thing.
It's over!
Nothing is over!
One of the big changes was that much of Rambo's dialogue was removed, making him much more of a purely physical presence. So why is First Blood so good? I think much of it comes down to the creative collaboration between Stallone and Kotcheff, who's never really gotten his due as a director. I grew up watching First Blood on ratty VHS copies, which hampered the 2:35:1 scope of the film, but watching it on beautiful 4K is night and day, as it's never been clear to me before I'd watch it this way what a beautiful, evocative film Kotcheff had made. Shot on location in British Columbia, the movie has a lush green look, and you can almost smell the forest Rambo's being pursued through. The action is much lower key than in the sequels, and in some ways that makes the big stunt sequence all the more exciting. Another key creative element in the film was the score by Jerry Goldsmith, which ranks as one of his best, and the way it complements the action scenes, such as Rambo's initial escape from the police station and his infamous cliff jump. Gives me goosebumps every time. Stallone's performance is also one of his best. He's never gotten his proper due as an actor, and it's striking to me just to see how good he is in First Blood, although his performance was never actually considered for any awards back in 1982. You get the sense that Rambo is traumatized but trying to fit back into civilized society. The opening scene is heartbreaking as he goes to visit the family of a former comrade, only to realize he's dead as the result of Agent Orange. His final monologue to Trotman is masterful and probably the single best piece of screen acting he ever did.
I want to go home. I want to go home. He keeps calling my name. I want to go home, Johnny. I want to drive my Chevy. I said, well, what? I can't find your fucking legs. I can't get out of my head. I can do 7 years.
The rest of the cast is terrific too. While ostensibly playing a scumbag, Dennehy has moments that reveal Teasel's humanity, while Crenna is iconic as Trotman, with his delivery of the line, "He was trained to kill, period," a classic.
His job was to dispose of enemy personnel. To kill. Period.
Another subtle element I didn't pick up on until years later was that the film actually takes place at Christmas time. You can see decorations in the office and around town, and I think by setting at Christmas, a hopeful time of year, actually increases the sense of tragedy and hopelessness. It's a time of peace and joy for everybody but John Rambo. The film itself is a sizable hit, grossing $47 million domestically and topping out at $125 million worldwide. That said, Mike Medavoy, who'd been running Orion Pictures at the time, who distributed the film, maintained that if Orion had put more money into marketing it, it would have likely been an even bigger hit. A similar claim he made about another sleeper Orion picked up 2 years later, The Terminator. He also said that Orion's lack of marketing muscle led to the sequels going to TriStar, and indeed Rambo 2 would make 3 times what First Blood did. No matter, for the first time, First Blood proved that Stallone was bankable outside of the Rocky franchise and kicked his career into another plane. Yet no one at the time knew just how massive the franchise would be. Sadly, Ted Kotcheff would not return, opting instead to make the thematically similar action flick Uncommon Valor, coincidentally with Gene Hackman, which is well worth checking out if you get the chance. Nevertheless, First Blood still stands as one of the greatest action films of the 80s and a masterful work of its genre. I give this one 10 out of 10 Stallones. And if you like this kind of content, make sure to click on the bell to receive updates for all of our latest videos. We're an independent company, and we appreciate all of your support.
Did your First Blood.